Hello, and welcome to We the People Taking Back Our Power. I'm Yasmin Attar, and this is my YouTube channel, Dr. Atari. Today's topic is running for president. No, I don't want to run for president, but it seems as though everyone else in the country sure wants to. So we can dispense with the hat and the scar and the flag. Personally, I don't think it's my place to tell others they should or shouldn't run. I know I see a lot of editorials and Facebook posts about why so-and-so shouldn't run, but I definitely do have opinions about the subject. I don't get excited when a centrist wants to run for president. So Howard Schultz, Starbucks founder, announcing on 60 Minutes that he's thinking of running as a centrist independent is a snooze fest for me. So is Kristen Gillibrand saying she wants to run for president in 2020. Another centrist. Plus, a lot of people are mad at her for leading the charge to get Senator Al Franken to resign. Some don't believe his alleged transgressions were as serious as, say, Harvey Weinstein's. I don't get excited when polls show that former Vice President Joe Biden is ahead in the polls. It's only 20%, but still ahead of the rest. Or that Beto O'Rourke is running. Two tall white guys. Boring. So why is it the tallest candidate has won in the majority of elections since we've had elections? Doesn't that put a woman at a decided disadvantage? Take a look at Wikipedia. They have a list of the height of all the presidents since George Washington and their opponent. In 58 to 68% of the cases, depending on when you start counting, the taller candidate has won. Maybe Biden and O'Rourke would be the best. So what's the problem with centrism? When a centrist or someone in the middle wants to be president, it means we get more of the same, the status quo. Nothing will really change. We get what we already have: economic inequality, destruction of our environment, extinction of animal species, and large corporations unduly influencing our government. Actually, I was excited when Senator Elizabeth Warren announced that she was running for president in 2020. I love the way she is so passionate about how we, the working and middle class, are getting screwed, how the system is rigged. Plus, I love the way she smacks down the smug, self-important senators and the bankers and Wall Street guys that come to D.C. to call favors from Congress.
Yeah, it is. It's $855 million in just 3 months, just a little bit shy of $1 billion in profits. Now, you attack the ACA, but do you know how much of Anthem's total revenue comes from government health care programs, including Medicare and Medicaid?
I do not know that offhand.
How about half? Does that sound about right to you? According to your own press release from 7 weeks ago, in fact, more than half of Anthem's revenue from the first half of this year, that's 54%, came from taxpayer-funded public insurance programs. You rake in money on Medicare Advantage plans. You rake in money on Medicare Part D prescription drug plans. You rake in money from Medicaid, on and on. Buckets of taxpayer money, but you're pulling out of the ACA market. Can I ask why?
I also like Bernie Sanders for the same reason. His beatdown of Alan Greenspan for being so out of touch with ordinary Americans is epic.
Sharon, Mr. Greenspan, nice to see you again. Mr. Greenspan, I have long been concerned that you are way out of touch with the needs of the middle class and working families of our country, that you see your major function in your position as the need to represent the wealthy and large corporations. And I must tell you that your testimony today only confirms all of my suspicions, and I urge you, and I mean this seriously, because you're an honest person. I think you just don't know what's going on in the real world. And I would urge you, come with me to Vermont, meet real people. The country clubs and the cocktail parties are not real America. The millionaires and billionaires are the exception to the rule. You talk about an improving economy while we have lost 3 million private sector jobs in the last 2 years. Long-term unemployment has more than tripled. Unemployment is higher than it has been since 1994. We have a $4 trillion national debt. 1.4 million Americans have lost their health insurance. Millions of seniors can't afford prescription drugs. Middle-class families can't send their kids to college because they don't have the money to do that. Bankruptcy cases have increased by a record-breaking 23%. Business investment is at its lowest level in more than 50 years. CEOs make more than 500 times of what their workers make. The middle class is shrinking. We have the greatest gap between the rich and the poor of any industrialized nation, and this is an economy that is improving. I hate to see what would happen if our economy was sinking. Now, today, you may not have known this. I suspect that you don't, but you have insulted tens of millions of American workers. You have defended over the years, among other things, the abolition of the minimum wage, one of your policies, and giving huge tax breaks to billionaires. But today you reached a new low, I think, by suggesting that manufacturing in America doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where the product is produced. We lost 2 million manufacturing jobs in the last 2 years alone, 10% of our workforce. Walmart has replaced General Motors as the major employer in America, paying people starvation wages rather than living wages.
He really ripped Greenspan a new you-know-what. We're not all millionaires and billionaires. Public opinion polls show that people want bold candidates with bold policy positions. So why are all these moderates running? I guess they feel if they appeal to the middle, they will have a better chance of winning. Not. To me, it means not taking a stand, not fighting for what's right, playing it safe. I understand the need for incrementalism, but what has incrementalism got us? It almost seems as though we're going backwards. And can some issues really be done incrementally anymore? I mean, can climate change be incremental? Do we have another 50 years? I don't think so. So in the effort to find a candidate that's not too far to the left or too far to the right, we get pablum. That's the cereal you feed infants before their digestive tracts have fully formed. So how do we decide? Who do we eliminate? Is it Kristen Gillibrand, Amy Klobuchar, Peter Buttigieg? I didn't know Peter Buttigieg was in the Navy Reserves or that he had deployed to Afghanistan. That's quite impressive. Each one of these people is somebody's favorite candidate. It's really too soon to know who is the best Democratic candidate for president. I'm a social scientist, so I advocate looking at the public opinion polls. I suggest we wait until later, around January 2020, and then start looking at those polls. The scientifically conducted surveys where people are randomly selected ensures they can be accurate to within a plus or minus 3 percentage point margin of error. Those are the polls to look at. And not just the polls of likely voters or registered party voters, but every possible voter. Those would end up including the young potential voters who tend to lean progressive. As you will recall, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was the unexpected winner in her 2018 House of Representatives race for the state of New York because the pollsters talked to likely voters. As she herself said, we changed who voted. She got the 19-year-olds who'd never voted before. My other thoughts are that time will flush out who gains momentum, who raises the most money, who doesn't run out of money. Even the get big money out of politics candidates have to raise money. You need to pay people to work for you. You can't rely on volunteers alone. Plus, you need money for services, supplies, and travel, and so forth. So what else can we do? Some people want to target the conservative states or the ones with lots of swing voters. Maybe that's why they want a moderate. I say we tell the truth. The truth about how our democracy has been circumvented by a minority who are way far to the right. I'm talking about the super wealthy conservatives, libertarians who've orchestrated a negative agenda, in my opinion. A minority who stoke the public, telling lies, targeting politicians they don't like, liberals, progressives, females, devising outright smear campaigns that unfortunately some people believe and have taken hold, who really don't represent most of us. They are not the silent majority, they are a loud, well-funded minority. Ultimately, shouldn't the truth win out? Get it out there. Shout it from the mountaintops, the church steeples, the streets. For example, the Sunrise Movement. It's been gaining momentum and raising a bunch of money. Create 1 million YouTube channels devoted to honesty, justice, and helping and caring for each other, which I think is really most people. I recently attended a party where the average age was 80. We watched Knock Down the House, a Netflix documentary about progressive candidates, including AOC. And we were all so excited. Those of us in the baby boomer generation and older want bold candidates too. Maybe we weren't ready in 2016. Perhaps 2020 will be the tipping point. Another thought I have is no matter how boring and bland the candidate the Democrats may nominate is, it doesn't guarantee a win. I'm advocating the narrative that the economist Robert Reich so eloquently pointed out. The narrative of the triumphant individual, the little guy who believes in himself, works hard, has courage, and ultimately succeeds. The narrative of the benevolent community who help each other. Let's get rid of the false narratives. The trickle-down supply side, which was really a complete hoax. The monopolies and wealthy controlling far too much. And crony capitalism, for example, giving lucrative government contracts to your buddies in the business world. So let me know your thoughts. It's really too soon to predict, and we have lots of territory to cover. Today's interview is with Karen Riley. So Karen, just tell us where your name and where you're from.
My name is Karen Riley. I currently live in Harbor City, California.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us today. Thank you for being on We the People, Taking Back Our Power, and just tell me what concerns you about the state of our democracy, our world, universe.
I believe what concerns me is just the things that are going on in terms of how people are allowing things to happen and don't speak up, as if it's the norm. And what used to be right no longer seems to be right. And it seems to me like people just sort of have turned their a blinded eye and just say, well, we'll just let things just go. And I don't have a voice, or I don't know how to get involved, or even if I have a voice, how will my voice be heard?
So can you kind of elaborate? Is there any other thoughts you have around this? Or
Well, my biggest concern, I guess it just sort of started with the whole election thing. There's always been a divide, I believe, in our country. However, the divide has never been so visible, so much visible as it has been today. And I just believe because of the leadership that we now have in our country, it's not helping, because I don't call him our president. I just say the 45th. I just think by his demeanor, what he says, how he treats people, it's just stirred a pot. And it's just like that volcano that's just sort of been simmering. All of a sudden, now the lava has come up and it's just spewing everywhere. And as opposed to trying to see where we can bring the country back together, it's just that seems to me like he just continues to pour more fuel on the fire. And so then you have individuals who also agree with him. And it's like nothing else that they hear makes any sense to them. And I just sort of sit back and say, well, where are our morals? Where is our decency as a country of even how we treat people? It doesn't matter what your background is, what your education is, but there is a fiber that we're all supposed to have of how we treat individuals. And I don't see that anymore. I look at even both parties in the White House, and there's such a divide there. I just don't see how they're going to come back together. And then on the one hand, where you have the one Republican Party, I don't understand how they can support something and they know in their gut that it's wrong. I don't get that. You speak up when things are wrong. It's just like I was always taught, even with my pastor who was over me. I may not have always agreed with what he said, but I respected with what he said, and I was allowed to voice that opinion. But this individual that we have, the people around him, they don't say anything. And if they're saying it, they're not saying it loud enough. And I think what has happened I feel like people just don't regard, there's not a care for individuals anymore. It's just not there. It's just not there.
So, what do you want to do about it, or what would you like to do about it? That's my question. What would you like to do about it?
If I could gather a group, if I could talk to the people that we have elected, and I will just tell them, you keep saying we're standing for the people, but are you really standing for the people? Are you really hearing what we're actually saying? Do you really have the pulse? I would just like to have a conversation with those elected officials, even in the state of California, and saying, are you really doing everything that you know to do to have bipartisanship? You used to do it. Some of these people have been there forever, so they know each other. So what's the problem that you cannot come together at a time like this? And that's what I would like to do. I would just like to have a conversation. Just let me sit down and talk with you. And then I think too, just group conversations with people, even in our own communities, in our churches, in our cities, where we just have open conversation and not get so heated because I don't agree with what you're saying. Because there is a common ground, and a common ground is us caring about each other. A common ground is coming together and saying, as a whole, how is our country going to survive this, for our next generation of young people that are coming up? Talk is good, communication is good, and I think we have lost all of that because everybody goes home, everybody goes in their houses. No one talks to anyone anymore. We're all on social media, but is that really talk? And I think a lot more round table discussions. And I would just like to talk to a politician. And I elected you for something, but what I see, I didn't elect you for that.
So I'd like to follow up with you in a few weeks and, talk to you about what you've done. Exactly. Okay. That. Great.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Karen. And can you also tell us the story of how you and I came to be talking right now? Why we're doing this?
Yes, you and my sister, Donna Gillespie Jones, who is now deceased, she was a part of the cancer support group. And she talked so much about all of her friends. She really did. You all were a sense of real community for her. And there was a real love and a real support. And I saw that at the service that we had for her. You all will never know what you did for her in that short time that, that she was in her, you all's area. So I'm doing this for my sister.
Yes, as a way to honor her. And it feels really good because I know that she was interested in politics and she had wanted to work with me and we just never got the chance. Yes.
As a matter of fact, she did. I think it was the last election. She went down to the precinct or where they were doing the voting, and I mean, she was really into it. She had a lot of concern, and she really wanted to be involved, and she found a way. She found a way to become involved.
Oh, great. Okay, and you're okay with me using a photo of her in this, adding that? Great, yes. Okay, yes. Okay, well, thank you, Karen. Thanks for talking with me today, and say thank you to your husband because he helped a lot with setting up this guy.
Thank you so much. I hope what I said, will make a difference in some kind of way.
Yeah, it was great. And I'm going to follow up with you so that we can talk some more.
That's it for now. We talked about running for president, the problem with centrism, when to pay attention to public opinion polls and which polls to pay attention to. We talked to Karen Riley about speaking out when you see injustice, about civility and common decency. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to click the like button and to subscribe. Also, please leave comments. I would definitely like to hear back from you. What do you have strong feelings about and would like to discuss on We the People Taking Back Our Power?